Despite incoming fire and unforgiving conditions, our brought every American home. No American lives were lost. We leave no man behind. And that is not luck. The result of unmatched training, superior technology, and unbreakable warrior ethos, and sheer American grit. Our special operators, pilots, performed with near perfection under fire, and they were lethal. Under heavy enemy fire, the 3rd Marine Regiment executed one of the riskiest combat drops of the entire Strait of Hormuz's campaign. Their target was a rugged mountain chain deep in Iranian territory that overlooked critical shipping lanes. Iran had turned these peaks into a network of fortified observation posts, mobile rocket launchers, and underground supply caves that were directing attacks on passing vessels. The mission: insert 1,200 Marine paratroopers directly onto the rocky slopes under live fire, seize the high ground, destroy the rocket sites, and establish a blocking position that would cut off Iranian reinforcement routes. This would be a true combat parachute assault. No helicopters, no beach landing, just Marines falling from the sky straight into the fight. At a remote desert airfield in Saudi Arabia, the warning order arrived at 01:00 hours. Colonel James Harlan, commanding officer of the 3rd Marine Regiment, assembled his company leaders inside a sand-colored operations bunker. A detailed satellite imagery wall display showed the jagged mountain terrain, steep ridgelines, narrow valleys, suspected rocket hiding spots, anti-aircraft guns positioned on false peaks, and the network of foot trails used by Iranian mountain troops. Colonel Harlan spoke with steel in his voice. "We jump tonight, under fire. First stick secures the northern ridgeline and knocks out the primary rocket battery. Second stick takes the central saddle and blocks the main trail. Third stick clears the southern caves. We fight from the moment our boots hit the dirt. No time to regroup on the ground. Dominance must be immediate." He covered wind drift calculations, should drop altitudes, rally points under fire, and fire support from offshore naval assets. The officers listened without a single unnecessary word, eyes locked on the map. The Marines moved straight into final preparation. In the dimly lit hangar, paratroopers conducted last-minute rig checks on their MC-6 parachutes, ensuring canopy release and reserve handles were free. They loaded M27 rifles with fresh magazines, attached suppressors where needed, and packed fragmentation grenades, white phosphorus smoke, and extra radio batteries into their assault packs. Designated marksmen zeroed their M110 sniper rifles for long-range engagements across valleys. Mortar teams broke down 81mm tubes into man-portable loads while distributing high-explosive and illumination rounds. Every Marine carried extra canteens and quick energy bars, knowing resupply might be hours away. The mood was intense and silent. These paratroopers understood they were jumping straight into contested terrain. On the tarmac, 8 C-17 Globemaster III aircraft stood ready with ramps lowered and engines turning. Loadmasters directed the final chaining of supply bundles, containing extra ammunition, water, and medical kits. Inside the cockpits, pilots completed final navigation updates and threat avoidance routes. The Marines formed into sticks and marched toward the aircraft in perfect order, their heavy parachute regs making each step deliberate. They climbed aboard, hooked static lines to the overhead cables, and took seats along the red webbing. The rear ramps sealed with a heavy metallic clank. The big transports taxied into position and thundered down the runway, while lifting off into the black sky. The flight toward the Hormuz Mountains was tense. As the formation approached Iranian airspace, the aircraft descended to low level to avoid early detection. Inside the cabins, jump masters gave final commands. Get ready, stand up, hook up. Red light switched to green. One after another, the sticks of Marines exited the aircraft into the rushing wind. Parachutes deployed in long trails behind the C-17 as 12 Marines descended through tracer fire and sporadic anti-aircraft bursts, lighting up the night. The drop was chaotic but controlling. Many Marines landed on steep rocky slopes, rolling to absorb impact and immediately shedding shoes. Iranian defenders on the heights opened fire with machine guns and rockets the moment the first canopies appeared. Marines returned fire while still on the ground, using their rifles from prone positions. First Stick fought uphill under heavy fire to reach the northern ridgeline, destroying 2 mobile rocket launchers with shoulder-fired missiles that exploded in bright fireballs against the dark rocks. Second Stick secured the central saddle, engaging Iranian mountain troops in close combat and blocking the main reinforcement route with well-placed machine gun fire. Third Stick cleared a series of shallow caves, using grenades and flashbangs to neutralize hidden positions and capture several Iranian spotters. Despite taking casualties, the Marines refused to yield momentum. Designated marksmen picked off enemy machine gun crews from distance, while mortar teams set up tubes on small ledges and began dropping illumination rounds to expose Iranian movements. Naval gunfire from destroyers offshore provided precise strikes on larger enemy concentrations, shaking the entire mountainside. By first light, the key peaks were in Marine hands. Captured rocket launchers were disabled and pushed over cliffs. Observation posts were turned into Marine defensive positions. The 3rd Regiment had successfully cut the mountain chain and denied Iran the ability to direct attacks from these heights. Colonel James Harlan stood on a windswept ridge as the sun rose, scanning the strait below through binoculars. He turned to his radio operator and said calmly, "Heights secured. Rocket threat neutralized. The corridor below us is now open. Marines, you just opened the gate." The shock in Tehran was immediate. Losing control of these critical mountain observation points crippled Iran's remaining ability to coordinate strikes against shipping. Rocket attacks on the strait dropped sharply within hours as surviving Iranian units withdrew deeper inland. On the captured ridgeline, the Marines quickly consolidated. They dragged supply bundles into defensive circles, established overlapping fields of fire, and began treating wounded while awaiting aerial resupply. B-22 Ospreys were already en route with additional ammunition and medical teams. Patrols pushed out to clear remaining pockets of resistance across the rocky terrain. As the morning progressed, the Marines who had jumped through fire now stood watch over the sparkling waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Their faces were streaks with sweat and dust, but their eyes showed the hard pride of men who had taken ground. The enemy swore they could never hold. Later that day, Colonel Harlan addressed the regiment over the tactical net. "You dropped into hell under fire and took the mountains. Because of what you did here, tankers are moving again below us. The mission continues, but this ridgeline now belongs to the 3rd Marine Regiment." Far below in the strait, the first groups of commercial oil tankers began their transit, escorted by naval forces and watched over by the Marines, now holding the high ground. What Iran had used as an elevated fortress to threaten global energy routes was now firmly under American control. The 3rd Marine Regiment paratroopers had written a new chapter in the battle for Hormuz, a chapter of courage, precision, and dominance delivered straight from the sky, under fire. The mountains were theirs, and with them the Strait of Hormuz moved one decisive step closer to flowing freely once again.